This is the Book Deal Podcast,
where you will discover the inspiring stories of the authors behind your favourite books.
No matter what stage of writing you are at, we've got you covered. I'm Tina Strong.
And I'm Madeleine Cleary, and join us as we pull back the curtain of published authors.
One deal at a time.
The Book Deal Podcast acknowledges the traditional owners of the land and waters which it's recorded on, and pays respect to their elders past, present and emerging. Gareth and Louise Ward are writers, ex-coppers from the UK and the owners of independent bookshop Wardini Books in New Zealand. Their second novel, written together in the best-selling Bookshop Detectives series Tea and Cake and Death, features their beloved ex-copper and bookstore-owning protagonists, Garth and Eloise. Gareth is the author of the Tarquin the Honest and the Rise of the Remarkables book series, as well as being the best-selling and award-winning author of The Traitor and the Thief and The Clockhill and the Thief. Louise has one murder arrest to her name, is an English literature graduate, and as an ex-teacher, inflicted Shakespeare on inner-city 12-year-olds. I had a ball chatting with Gareth and Louise about plotting and co-writing as a couple, the business of bookselling and writing, and they so generously shared their tips for writers about how we can best work together with booksellers. I loved Louise's message about forging meaningful relationships and Gareth's very honest advice too. If it's not going well, suck it up and move forward. Gareth and Louise Ward, welcome to the Book Deal Podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And I got your names correct as well. I didn't call you by the protagonists of your series.
We haven't made it easy for people, have we?
No, I love it. I was really interested in your story because my husband and I, we actually met working at a bookshop and we worked together in a bookstore for years. And I think there's something very romantic people think about working together in bookshops. What do you think?
Yeah, I suppose there is really. You know, it's a lot of people's dream to own a bookshop, isn't it? So if you have that, if you have the initial romance of books and stories and adventures, and then you bring human romance into it, then it's a bit of a winner. We're not particularly romantic people. We've got a very strong and happy relationship, but I wouldn't say we're chocolates and flowers types.
So no canoodling in the bookshelves then.
I eat a lot of chocolate, but yeah.
Oh, he does, but he doesn't give it to me, so hence no romance.
We met at police training college, not in the bookshop, so yeah, it was a bit
romantic.
No.
So what was your first impressions of each other when you first met at the police college?
Hey, she's straight in there.
Well, Louise was known as the Rottweiler at police training college because she tended to bite everyone's head off. So that was my first impression of Louise, I think.
Can I just say, I was 20 years old. I had a lot going on in my life. So, yeah, I was a little bit ratty and just trying to work my way through what was happening in the world and becoming a very young police officer. And interestingly, I was from Nottinghamshire Police and Gareth was from Northamptonshire Police. And there's a central police training college where you all get together from the different forces. And in our little class, there were there just the two of you from Northampton?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he and our friend Darren, and the rest of the class called them the Northamptonshire Mafia, because they were just like so, I don't know, so onto it and a little bit overconfident, shall we say. So yeah, the first impressions were overconfident and aggressive.
Well, might even say arrogant, possibly.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. And so for listeners who haven't read yet the Bookshop Detective universe, so you've just released book 2, which is called Tea and Cake and Death. That came out at the start of the month, and I love that title, by the way. Is that something that you guys came up with, or was that the publisher?
No, it was us.
We came up with it.
I think there's lots of sort of tea and cake bookshop references. There's an Eddie Izzard sketch that tea and cake and
no, it's Tea and Cake or Death.
Tea and Cake or Death.
Or Death.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of inspiration.
All over the place, yeah.
Oh, I love it. So could you give us, Louise, perhaps a bit of an insight into your 2 crime-fighting, bookshop-owning protagonists, and their names are Garth and Eloise.
Yeah, which does make it tricky for people, interviewers, such as yourself, Madeleine.
You made it very tough.
Yeah, and I apologise for that. So when it was Gareth's idea to write a book together. He's the author of 6 novels before the Bookshop Detectives And we thought, well, what should we write about? Well, we know about policing back in the day, and we know about running a bookshop and being booksellers. So we thought we'd play around with those environments and create a cozy crime novel. We wanted it to be cozy because we still wanted people to visit our real life bookshop without fear of being eviscerated or something awful. So that was the genesis of it. And then we just really played with the experiences that we've had in real life of being coppers and booksellers, and created the story through that. Hence a bit of confusion over the names. But we thought it was just a bit of a giggle to begin with. We didn't know it would really go anywhere. And about halfway through, we thought, no, we've got something here. And by then we were so invested, I think, in what we created that we didn't really want to change it.
Yes, we just lent into the fact that it was, to start with, it was a joke on ourselves. And then once it started to become actually quite good, we thought, we'll just lean into it because everyone's going to recognise it's our bookshop anyway. So we just have fun with it. So I guess in the book, the two characters, Garth and Eloise, they're ex-cops. They've come to New Zealand for a reason that sort of later becomes apparent. And they're running this bookshop in Havelock North when sort of a cold case falls into their lap that they start investigating. And at the same time, this sort of serial killer nemesis from the past starts intruding into their present.
A literary agent, which made me laugh.
Yes, yeah. The whole, because it was set in a bookshop, we thought we'd go with lots of literary themes and mention lots of authors and things like that.
David Williams, I remember.
And because it's cozy crime, it's supposed to be a little bit tongue-in-cheek, a little bit funny. It's not like a procedure where you've got to be really serious. So we just thought we'd have fun with it, really.
Yeah, the humour's a major part of it.
Yeah, and that's what I loved about it. And why do you think readers these days are gravitating towards cozy crime? Gareth, do you have any insights into that?
I think it's because the world's so messed up, basically. I think the world is going to hell in a handbasket. I think people just want to escape for a little bit, and they can do that in a book. So I think that's probably the reason. And we've had people come in to the bookshop and say, this is exactly the book that I needed at this moment, because it just gave me a bit of a lift.
Are you finding that people are coming to your bookshop because of the book? Are they touring to your bookshop?
Yeah, what happened to you this morning?
Oh yeah, I just popped into the bookshop because I was transferring books from our other bookshop to the Havelock one, and there was a lady from Sydney who, I don't think she'd come all the way to our bookshop, just from Sydney just for that, but she said I had to make sure that I came into the bookshop, so we signed her a copy and had a photo with her. So yeah, we are getting a few destination tourists, which is lovely.
Oh, that's amazing. So I suppose I want to go back in time a little bit to your early start, because I think the story behind the story for you both is really, really important for this one, because it is so much of your personal stories are inside this. So can you give us an insight about what's true, what maybe you, like, Louise, did you actually bust a literary agent hellbent, and I quote this, to remove their inadequate scribblings from the literary canon, which I love.
No, not quite. I mean, that's just a joke about, we've got a wonderful industry. The book selling industry is amazing, and it's collegial, and the ecosystem of writers, publishers, booksellers. It is a wonderful world in which to live. But there is a bit of literary snobbery out there, so it's just a little bit of a thumbed nose at that kind of thing. So no, I've never busted a literary agent serial killer.
But you have arrested someone for murder,
we did turn up one time. This is, it's decades ago, but turned up just in a panda car, me and the guy I was on shift with, and a chap had murdered his wife, and he was quite elderly, and also directed us to another home where he had also taken out his elderly wife's boyfriend, who she'd been having an affair with. So it was this very elderly person love triangle, which is kind of awful. And we arrested him because we had to at the scene, but of course then you call it in, and CID, Criminal Investigation Department, come in and rearrest him just to keep the chain clean. So that was us out of it. Never had anything to do with it again. So you just, when you plod, you kind of just first responders, aren't you? And gatekeepers for a bit.
So the actual sort of crime side of the stories is completely fictitious, but because we are ex-cops, there is a realism to the way we think, the way we investigate, or the way the characters investigate, the way they think, and sort of it's quite realistic in that respect.
And I think it's important for crime writers to get it right as well. I know that a lot of writers do go and seek a consultation with ex-cops like yourselves or with current day police. And I think it's important to get the facts right, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's probably more important in police procedure or in our sort of stuff. You can bend the rules a bit, but we have contacted various police officers, medical professionals, and veterinary professionals, and all sorts to get specific details right, or at least so we know what they are. And then if we choose to just bend them a little bit for the sake of story, at least we know what we're doing is sort of correct-ish.
And people are keen to help. I don't think writers should ever be worried about that. If they've got a contact or they know someone who knows someone, just roll with that, because people would like you to get it right. I think it's nice,
absolutely,
isn't it, rather than complain about it afterwards. Why do these crime writers just make stuff up all the time?
No, exactly. And I had some advice from a writer recently. Apparently, you can contact the media teams in different, like in Australia, obviously we've got different police forces. You can reach out to the Victoria Police Force, their media team, and ask them to consult things. And isn't that great? I'm sure there are other things in New Zealand and across other states as well. So definitely lots of tools out there to get that right. So what drew you? So you obviously living in the UK, police officers, and then you decide, we're going to move across the other side of the world and open a bookshop. Tell us a story about that.
I was teaching in the UK. You were in IT then,
yeah.
And our children were quite little. And my brother moved out here, and he'd been out for a few years. And we thought, well, we'd better go and visit. And we came out in the summer, and then we came the year after, or a couple of years after, in the winter. And it was just like paradise, compared. There's nothing wrong with the UK, and we're actually living in quite a nice county, weren't we? A nice rural county, but it just seemed there was more opportunity. The weather was better. The people were a bit more chilled out and just really living their lives, and we just saw opportunities for ourselves and our kids. So we moved over here, and I was teaching here in Hastings for quite a while. And initially, Gareth wanted to do nothing. You were going to be a beach bum, weren't you?
How did that work out?
Well, it didn't, because our house sale in the UK fell through, so I had to get a job.
It had to work.
Yeah, which was terrible. So I got a job in IT, and then the bookshop in the village came up for sale. It was like, I went down, I spoke to the owner, and she said, don't buy this bookshop because it's a complete dog. But we thought we could turn it around, and so we bought it anyway, and against all advice. And we did make a go of it. And then I became a published author. And then, a couple of years ago, we decided to write together. And here we are.
Okay, you have just skipped over a whole bunch of stuff. So
yes.
I want to dive into some of this. Okay, so you bought the bookshop first. So that was before you decided to start writing. Or had you been writing this whole time?
No, I'd always been right. I've always written really all my life. I had a bit of a hiatus when the kids were very little, but I've always written. I've belonged to various writers' groups. And then I think in 2015 I entered sort of a manuscript into a story competition called the Storylines Tessaduda Award, and it won that competition. And because of that, I got a publishing contract with Walker Books Australia.
Amazing. So hang on, is this the first competition you've ever entered?
Yeah, it was, I think, actually. Yeah,
it's a good strike rate. Often there's,
fever.
Yeah. Well, sort of, it was lovely when I came to New Zealand. In the UK, you can't submit to publishers. You have to get an agent, and that's terrifically difficult. But over here, a lot of the publishers will accept submissions, or they will have certain windows when they will accept submissions. So I was just starting to write the novel that became The Traitor and the Thief, and I thought, well, what can I do because I've differently to make this one work. And so I actually did an online writing course because we had the bookshop, so I couldn't go on a sort of a residential one. So I did that, and the novel came out of that writing course, and then it won the competition, and that's really where everything took off. And I think once you've got one under your belt, it becomes it's still hard work, becomes a little bit easier because people at least read your manuscript rather than it sitting on the slush pile.
Yeah.
And what about you, Louise? How did you come to writing? Had you always been interested? Because I noticed you've got a degree in English literature. Obviously, you're a teacher as well. Has writing always been something that you've wanted to do?
Yeah, I've always wanted to, but I'd never done it. I've written a lot of non-fiction articles for newspapers and a lot of book reviewing. I think when you can get your head around words like that, and I'm quite articulate in the way that I can express things, but I'd never really thought of fiction writing, and so it was Gareth's idea because you like doing stuff together with me, and we thought we'd just give it a crack. Oh, I had actually written. I always forget this. I wrote a couple of plays for the kids that I taught. Yeah, so I have actually done that before, so I can make a story flow. But I always forget about that for some reason. So yeah, we just gave it a crack, and it seemed to work. And, yeah.
Okay, so who did you both come up with the idea together? Because I'm so interested in what it is like writing as a couple. It doesn't, I mean, there are instances where, writers co-write together, thinking like Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff, and Amy Kaufman is actually a big co-writer. And I've listened to her speak about it, and it's, I think, really interesting. As a couple, though, perhaps Graham Simpson and Buist, too, I think about. Where do you start? Who comes up with the ideas? How do you brainstorm? How do you write? What's the mechanics of it?
I think it was what do we know about? And we know about the bookselling, and we know about being police. So that's why we decided to write crime. And we went cozy crime, A, because it was popular, and B, because we did want people to come to the bookshop. So we thought we'd go down that route.
That's a very strategic way to do it, actually. I like that.
Yeah. Well, we've spent a long time in this business, and it's not an easy business to be in.
No.
Bookshops are closing all over the place. So we're always thinking about what's next, what can we do, how can we keep this beautiful thing relevant to everybody. And I've digressed away from what you were talking about, so back to you.
No, that was so we thought, well, if we set it, in the bookshop, that it's clearly our bookshop, maybe it will attract people and, just be good advertising for the shop. And then I can't even remember how we did the first one. We just started like thrashing some ideas out about how it might work. And then once we'd got the idea of the plot, we planned it chapter by chapter. So it's written chapter about. So I write Garth chapters. Louise
I got that, Gareth. Yes.
Yeah, Eloise's chapters. And well, some people don't realise that actually. It's
really?
funny. We thought it was quite obvious, but when we do book talks and that, people are like, "Oh, I didn't realise that."
Thank you. I think the voices are very distinct.
Yeah. I mean, and we both edit each other's chapters, but we take priority on our chapter, and we planned out what was going to happen in each chapter, which key plot points had to happen, but then it was up to to either of us to how that was going to happen. So it was a delight, because when I get Louise's chapter, I know what's going to happen supposedly, but I don't know
if I stick to the plan.
Yeah, if she sticks to the plan, which isn't always the case. But I don't know how. So it's like I'm reading a novel at the same time as I'm writing it, which is really great fun. Because having written 6 before, it's a very lonely process, but this one's much more fun.
I can imagine it's having collaboration, I think, in writing an early draft. I think, that's what people have writers groups for, isn't it? To have some of that early collaboration. But having that together, writing it together, I think is really interesting. Yeah. So you're writing it together. Did you have any disagreements in terms of where the plot was going, or was it all smooth sailing?
Yeah, we don't really have disagreements. We plot it out in as much detail as you can without stultifying that creative process. But if someone's like not sure, they will say. We've always said, park your ego at the door of this project. Gareth's written 6 novels before. He's very experienced. He knows a lot more than I do. But that doesn't mean that my ideas aren't valid either. So we sit and we plot it all out, and then off we go.
I think both of us just want it to be the best novel it can be. So there is no ego. It's just like, is this idea better than the one that we had? Yes, let's go with it. And we haven't really had any sticking points. I think the major sticking points is like Garth might make some inappropriate comments that I think are quite funny, and Louise says you can't put that in the book. So those were probably the biggest sticking points, I think.
I wish we could see it's like a blooper reel almost of those, the cutscenes.
Yeah. Well, one or two. I think there was 1 or 2 that I said no, we should keep them because they are funny. But yes, quite a few got cut out.
I liked the sort of veiled reference to Rebecca Yarros. I'm assuming it was Rebecca Yarros's Onyx Storm, Iron Flame.
About.
No. That was in book 2.
Dragon Heat. Is it?
What? No, I don't. No, I've got no idea. No.
Yeah, dragon's not.
Actually, side note on that. What are New Zealanders reading at the moment?
A lot of romance. Yeah, I think again that's the escapism thing, isn't it? So we actually had a midnight launch party for that Onyx Storm, the book that came out.
And it was great fun. It was, we had people dressed up and really into it. It was really, really cool.
Yeah.
So, fair play.
Yeah. So a lot of the romance. I think still a lot of crime. I think crime never really goes out of business because it's something that most people won't do. Do you know? Everyone's got a line, and 90% of the population won't cross that line. So they're just fascinated to see how criminals tick, really, because it's not them. But yeah, what else is? Are there trends? Graphic novels for the kids still. A lot of the manga and that kind of thing. Yeah.
I think it's interesting because we opened when we opened a bookshop. Not my husband and I, but we were opening up a bookstore as some of the staff, and we opened just when 50 Shades of Grey became massive.
Yeah.
And I remember a lot of perhaps disparaging comments about 50 Shades of Grey. I mean, personally, I've never read it, but what it did is it opened up markets in readers. Like they read that and then they want more. And that's not a bad thing, is it, to have people reading?
No, I don't think so. And I think 50 Shades, we didn't sell a lot of that. And I think that was because we're an independent bookstore. People are either embarrassed to come and ask for it in an independent bookstore because they think you're a bit snooty. So I think there's been a little bit of a breaking down of that barrier that independent bookstores are almost gatekeepers of literary stuff. So I'm glad that that's not the case, because we want to sell Rebecca Yarros and
we do.
all of that just as much as anybody does. We want to have fun with it too.
I think when 50 Shades came out, we'd only just opened the shop, I believe, so I think we were probably a little bit behind the 8 ball on it as well.
Maybe.
Rightly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've forgotten what the question was, but
it was just about New Zealanders and reading. And I had this vision that New Zealanders, I don't know why, I imagined them reading very highbrow New Zealand literary fiction.
I'll do that too. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we've got our Ockham New Zealand Book Awards coming up in May, and lots of eyes of readers will be on that. So yeah, there is, because we've got the university presses that produce really top quality literature. And out of their writing programs as well. So yeah, there is that, but
but it's very broad spectrum, like anywhere really. It's we have our sci-fi fantasy corner, and we sell a lot of sci-fi fantasy just because Kat, who people might know as Kitty from the book, that's her thing. So she's big into that. So a lot of it is hand sales, the stuff we sell, and then it's
and what you become known for as a bookstore.
What's reviewed. If there's a review on the radio, suddenly everyone wants that book. So it's but it's a very broad church.
That's wonderful. And I want to talk about bookstores and community, but so going back, okay, so you've got your first draft so this is your first book, Dead Girl Gone. What do you do then? Like, are you editing it? How do you, and obviously, Gareth, you've previously published books, so you've got an into the publishing. Is that what you do? You use that? So
we edited it. Well, the first thing we did was actually let the staff read it, because we hadn't told them we were writing a book that they might be in. So we sent them an email saying, we're going to have a staff meeting, but just the Havelock North staff, not the other one, which is quite unusual. So there's nothing to worry about, but just come up to our house and we'll have a chat about stuff. And they were very worried. They set up a WhatsApp group, and then so when we brought them here, we said, we may have written this book and you may be in it. They were so relieved it wasn't anything worse that they just went with it. So we let them read it and took their feedback and made a couple of changes on that. And then once we were, we went quite meticulously through the editing. And then once we were happy with it, we absolutely cheated and abused our connections and sent it to people at the sort of 4 big publishers that we knew and said, can you get this to the right person? And they did. And 2 of them wanted it, 2 of them didn't, which is, I think it's turned out to be a massive success. But I think it's interesting that, even then 2 publishers just said no. And that's just what you're up against. A lot of it is luck, in all honesty. A lot of writing is getting the right book at the right place at the right time. If these 2 publishers had just signed a cozy crime, then they wouldn't have considered it. So
exactly, we don't know what goes on inside those acquisitions.
So a lot of it's been the right place at the right time, and then there was a very minor bidding war, and we ended up going with Penguin, which we're absolutely delighted about. So
they've been amazing.
Let's not call it a minor bidding war. You just say it's a bidding. It's an auction.
No, it was very minor, really. It was, but it was still nice that there was one.
It's nice that two
people wanted it. Yeah.
And so,
But,
Louise, as a newcomer to the industry, like in terms of the author writing industry, how did you find the process of going to publication?
A lot more intense, perhaps, than I'd realised. Having seen it from a bookseller's point of view and just watching what Gareth had been through, I think every experience with a different publisher is different. So Walker Books, Bateman Books that he had his fantasy novels with, and that now with Penguin, I think they've all been different. But yeah, there's so much more to it, and the editing process is so huge and intense, and that's another place where you have to park your ego at the door, isn't it? You know, if someone's saying like, this whole paragraph, what's that for? You know, and they have to be that direct because we've all got a job to do. And you go, oh, well, yeah, actually, it doesn't serve any purpose. So that's my big learnings, really, is how the crafting of a novel that is going to be the best it can possibly be. Yeah, I
think you were also very nervous when the book came out about how it was going to review and things like that.
Well, let's talk about that then, because I mean, it has done so well. You must be just, blown away. Or was it something you were expecting?
No, I didn't know. I mean, I suppose the fact that two people wanted to publish it should give you some confidence, and it did. And we thought, well, this is a great story, but does it just crack us up? And does it just crack up that publisher because she's already in the book industry as well? Is it going to translate outside of that? But I think it has. I think people have liked the warmth in it, the humour, and that it's in the community. And there's people wandering in and out who you're going to meet in the supermarket. It's very real for a lot of people. So, but yeah, with the reviewing thing, I was very nervous about that because you are putting something out there in the world. You think, well, I think I can do this, but what if everyone thinks it's rubbish? And I think it's a legitimate concern, isn't it? Because nobody wants to hold up this baby that they've birthed, and some people say that's ugly.
It is a very personal process, isn't it?
Yeah.
And any like even in the editing, criticism of your writing hurts. But yeah, it's much worse when you get a bad review. But I guess because I've done a few before, it's just like some people are going to like it and some people aren't, and you just hope more people like it than don't.
Yeah.
But I think. And we thought it would be successful, but as booksellers, we know that every so often there's a book that everyone says this is going to be the next big thing, and it does absolutely nothing. So there's always that as well. But I think it took everyone by surprise. I mean, we in our own hearts we were convinced that it was a really great book and it was very funny. But like you said, you don't know if that's going to translate. And so I think it took, it's taken everyone by surprise, absolutely how well it's gone and how it's taken off. And we're delighted that it has. And we've had so many lovely emails from people who we've never met saying, I loved your book, I love book 2, and, just really nice things. So it's been a lovely, lovely process.
But for the purpose of your podcast and for your audience, I think it depends on how much you want to get into the reviews. Like, I don't want to read the bad ones. I don't see the purpose because there are people who just won't get it, and they are out there. And so I won't go on Goodreads. I think that's is going to screw with your head unless you filter into the 5 and 4 star reviews, in which case it's lovely. And the publisher actually said, now, how do you want all of them? Do you want just the good ones? And so Gareth will have all of them, and I'll say, just the good ones.
I think that's great.
I think it's harder when it's like maybe a magazine review or something like that, where quite clearly the person who's reviewed it doesn't like your genre of book anyway, so they're never going to give you a good review. Why didn't you choose a fantasy book if you don't read fantasy? If you only read literary fiction, you're not going to really get a great deal out of it. So sometimes that happens. You just have to suck it up and move on, really. Yeah.
Sometimes in those sort of official reviews as well, I say official because they're, ones that have more credence, I suppose, people pay attention to. It's actually quite interesting because they will pull apart certain things and they actually do make you see insights that perhaps you didn't really know, and you go, oh, actually, that might have a point. So this is what some authors have told me. They actually don't mind a critique on their books when they're in these types of reviews, because it's quite actually a bit of a privilege to be critiqued as well in this kind of industry.
It is. If you value that person's experience. Not what someone just saying it's rubbish for the sake of saying it's rubbish.
That's right. We've got an AI to write it for them.
Or being contrary for the sake of being contrary, because. Yeah, but it's all part of the process. It's like, rejection letters are all part of the process. Every rejection hurts, but you just have to, be miserable for a couple of days and then get over it and move on.
Have you had many rejections, Gareth?
Yes.
We love a rejection story on the book deal, so please tell us.
I think just like when I was starting out, because as I said, in the UK, you've got to go to agencies. So, you'd send your manuscript to many, many agencies and it would get rejected. And I had, this would have been about 35 years ago. I'd written a sci-fi novel, which, to be honest, now looking back, wasn't that good. But there was one agent who was considering it and they gave it to one of their sci-fi authors who read it and just said no. So that hurt.
Oh, that's awful when it comes from another author as well.
Yeah. So, but you just have to, I've always been of the opinion that, when you write something good enough, it will find its way. So I belong to lots of writers groups, and I always think there's two sorts of people. There's the sort of person who just wants to hear how good their writing is, and there's the sort of person who wants to hear, and there's the sort of person who wants to hear, what can I do to get better? And I've always been that. So I've always, although it's a pain when you do get rejections. It's just like, well, maybe I need to do some more work. But with this one, we got 2 rejections, we got 2 acceptances, and it's turned out to be an absolute belter. So you've just got to suck it up really and move on.
That's right. That's a good top tip.
It is, but you've got to also think, well, why didn't they like it? Is this something I need to consider? If they give you, quite often you don't get any feedback, but And the other thing I would say as well is if you get someone absolutely loves it and giving you an absolute glowing shout out, if it's not one of the big publishers, be a bit skeptical. When I was in the UK, I'd sent this manuscript out to, lots of agents and not heard anything back. And then there was a publisher I sent it to, and I got this massive glowing review that said how they love the characters, they love this, they love that. And immediately I was thinking, I'm a bit suspicious because everyone else thought it wasn't that good. And it turned out to be a Vanity publisher who was just trying to suck you in to get the money. So I think always do your research as well with your publisher.
That's a really good tip. And I think for those in Australia, we have the Australian Society of Authors. So if you're not sure about a publisher who's making a request, you can always seek legal advice through them, through the ASA Legal, just to get a sense of what they're about. Because yes, I know that there are quite a lot of vanity publishers out there. I think we've got some great small to mid-sized presses in independents in Australia, although, that's been changing. But we do have some really good ones who are very reputable. And definitely not vanity.
So, but and we've had people come into the bookshop and they, with the books that they've got done via, and I won't name them because I don't want any of us to get sued, but by maybe some UK companies, and they said, well, yes, it's been produced by a proper publisher, but we know that that's a terrible vanity publisher, and
isn't that heartbreaking?
It is for us because they've spent thousands and thousands and thousands on it. And we just know from the name that it's there's a website, isn't there, of I can't remember what it's called now, Publisher Beware, I think it's called, or something like that lists vanity publishers, and that's always worth checking out as well.
I actually got recently a colleague who's outside the industry asked me, how much of your own money are you investing into the publication of your novel? And I said, just my time. You're not putting your own money into it. And I think any publisher that asks you to do that, beware.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Be aware of what you're getting into and the outlay, and if you're going to get it back, and what your expectations are. You have to manage your expectations.
But I think also there's a couple of New Zealand publishers who will, who you sort of
hybrid.
Who you do give them money, but they are also genuinely good publishers. So, as you say, anyone who's asking for money, immediately the flag should go up, and then you should do a bit more research, probably.
Yes. And maybe if you're just wanting to see it in print and to give a few copies to your family, if that's your expectation, then that's fine. That's different, isn't it? Yeah. So moving on. So when you released book 2, was it different? Because we've got a lot of debut authors in Australia. We've got a bit of a group at the moment. Everyone's now thinking about book 2, and I think publishers want you to start thinking about book 2 even before book 1's even out. Have you found that process different, publishing book 2?
I suppose the momentum was already there. In New Zealand, our book never dropped out of the top 10 New Zealand fiction.
That is amazing.
I know.
Congratulations. That's just wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, it came out last July and it's still there. And now it's in the two formats. It's in the trade and the B format just came out as well. So
given the churn, the amount of books that are being released each year, that is really significant. Clearly, New Zealanders, they obviously love to have a book set in New Zealand too.
Yeah. I think early reviews for this one as well, I was just so relieved because
it's like the difficult second album, isn't it? You're never quite, particularly if the first one's done so well, you're thinking, if the first one's been all right, then the second one only has to be all right. But if the first one's done really well, you've sort of set the bar for yourself, haven't you, really? So so the reviews that came back were very good. So that was a really...
Well, the first couple of reviews were just like, even better than the first one. And I'm like, oh, thank Christ. Yeah, that's amazing. So that enabled me to just relax and not have that, the spiral.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think as well, we basically, the publication date, because it had done so well, they brought the publication date forward by about 3 or 4 months. So we had less time. So it was like a real crunch for us to get it done. And so then you haven't had as much time as you'd quite like to perhaps double check yourself. So we're really worried because of that.
And you know what it's like carving out time to write. We've got 2 bookshops. We've got brilliant staff, so we're not on the shop floor very much anymore, but you've still got all the admin and all the business side of things to do, as well as, I don't know, Gareth's got about 17 projects on the go generally.
Including being a magician, I read too.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
how do you carve out the time? I was just sitting here thinking about how are you running 2 businesses, writing books, putting out bestsellers, publicity, being a magician on the side?
Kind of 7 days. We did realise earlier this year that we hadn't had proper time off from the shop, where you don't touch any of it for about 5 years or something, not one single day when we've not done something bookshop or writing related. So we did take, was it a whole day? I think we managed maybe like 5 days and I kept this laptop shut. I didn't even look at it, didn't do anything. And it was wonderful. But you've got to be really strict with yourself to make sure that you are apportioning your time and not wasting it. Yeah.
I think just because, it's quite rare that a book takes off. I've had 6 before. They've done all right, but they haven't done anywhere near as well as this. And so you just have to make the most of it and just all right, I'm not going to sleep for 3 months.
We do sleep. Well, you're not so much, but I was waving about my bits of paper, wasn't I, Madeleine, before we hit record. But, this is how I live.
So Louise is holding up a whole bunch of handwritten
my handwritten things of what the hell is going on. And we've got a really big one. We've got a year wall planner in the loo because you can't miss it, and you get up in the morning and go, oh, yes. But then you can also see where the gaps are.
I like that. That's a good tip. Put out your planner in the loo.
Yeah, isn't it? Because you go in there a few times a day.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. And when you find those gaps, then you go, okay, is that a rest time or is that? Well, actually, I could sit and write for an afternoon there. So
when's your next rest time? Because I know you've been so busy.
There isn't one.
Maybe July.
We tend to sort of grab things where we can, just this last weekend, we were down in Wellington. Gareth was selling the books at Armageddon, which is like one of the Comic Cons. Do you have the Armageddon in Australia?
Yeah.
And so he was doing that. I was support crew. So I was dropping him off, picking him up. But our daughter lives down there. So we made sure that we spent time with her in the evenings and we played a nerdy game, And then we're off to a festival, but we're going to go for 2 nights before our gig is on the Sunday. And they're putting us up in a nice sort of country home.
Oh,
so
lovely.
we will have a nice time going and watching everybody else's gigs. So it depends how you relax, I suppose, doesn't it?
That's true.
Active relaxers, I think, probably, just because we're always doing something. But you just have to fit your writing in when you can, basically. With us, because it's chapter about, you do get a small break. I've got to do my chapter. That's on me at the moment.
Yeah.
Louise doesn't have to do anything until I've done my chapter. So you get a little break from the writing, I suppose.
Yeah. So our bathroom got cleaned today because it's not my turn to do the chapter.
Oh, I love that. So you're writing book 3 at the moment then?
Yeah.
Can you tell us anything about it?
It will possibly resolve one of the big threads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll probably resolve the Pinter thread to a great extent. We were lucky, so we got a 2 book deal with the first book. So we knew we were going to do books 1 and book 2, and then just before Christmas, Penguin, our publisher, contacted us and said, do you want to do 2 more books? And we said yes. And so they've said, one can be a Bookshop Detectives and the other one can be whatever you want, another Bookshop Detectives or something else. So we're in a really enviable position, really, that we could either leave this as a trilogy or write another one or start a different series and come back to this one. It's up to us. So so that's
like
really
a dream.
great.
It's like a writer's dream, isn't it?
It is a writer's dream,
it is
actually.
amazing.
Yeah.
And we do know, like we were away this weekend, weren't we, going like, how good is our life?
Yeah.
So we're very aware of how privileged we are.
But you've worked hard for it and you continue to work hard as well. So you're putting in the work.
As well.
Because in the end, lots of people have dreams of writing a book. And Louise, you were saying before that you've always thought about writing a book, but you have to actually sit down at the desk and do the work.
Yeah.
I think another thing that I've always believed, I don't know how true this is because you never get any feedback, but I've always hit deadlines. If we've had a deadline for something, I've always really hit it, and we have. So I think that's one thing, and I think as well we've always been very receptive to publishers and editors' requests. So I think I've always tried to be that author that's easy to work with.
Yeah.
And I think that
being a nice person, not being a dick.
Yeah, I think that's quite important. I mean, I probably am, but I keep that all inside when I'm talking to the publishers. So.
He gets me to check his emails before he sends them.
Well, I think I'm a little bit on the spectrum, so I tend to just be quite focused, like, blah, blah, this is happening. Whereas,
okay, no,
say hello first.
Say hello. The kids are well.
I think it is important to be collaborative and communicative and hitting deadlines. So if you're a writer though who doesn't have a contract, I'm someone too who's really motivated by a deadline, and I think imposing deadlines on yourself, even if you don't have a publisher waiting upon it, I think it's still important as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think when I've been writing like book spec, without knowing that it's going to be published, I've always tried to say 500 words a day. Just do 500, and then in 3 months or whatever, the book is done, or the first draft is done, and that's the way I work. Then with these ones, it's a bit different because we have got deadlines, so you sort of work slightly differently. But for me, that was 500 words was an amount that I could do, not easily, but if you have a couple of half hours across the day or something, you can get it done, and that's just the way you just then keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Is that what you do too, Louise? Yeah.
I tend to just sort of.
Gareth is shaking his head.
Well, he hates this because I write really quickly, and it really annoys him. So I will sort of think and I'll visualize, and then I will write it, and I can hear it and I can see it, so it's actually flowing quite well, and I don't tend to get stuck. But it really pisses him off because he will have spent several days, and he's thought about it, and he's chucked his heart and soul at this chapter, and he emailed it to me, and I go, right, back at you. And it really annoys him.
So it doesn't annoy me, I just find it hard because I find writing really hard. So I will, it will take me maybe 2 days or 3 days to get my chapter done. And I email, this happened the other week, I emailed it like Wednesday lunchtime, Wednesday evening, she sent hers back to me. I haven't even had a break.
And it's not crap either. Can I just put that out there? What I write is of a fairly decent quality.
How did I know we've skipped over this a little bit, Louise, but where did you get your practice from? How did you learn to write? Did you do it? Was it something at uni that you got, or was it something that you'd always...
Yeah, I mean, even as a little kid and writing essays at school, I loved it, and I loved English literature. I did an English literature A level, which I don't know what you call that these days in Australia. Your height. When the qualification you do when you're 18.
We call that all sorts of things. It depends on which state you are. Exactly. But yes.
So, and I loved it, and then I went on to study. It was humanities degree, but it was an English literature major, and I absolutely loved it. Just delving into these things and having ideas and articulating those ideas. And then when running the bookshop, I've written lots of articles for the local newspapers and the local magazines, and then a couple of the nationals, and then got to review on RNZ. So you're constantly thinking how you can put your massive jumbled impressions of something into telegraphic sentences almost, where it's going to make sense to somebody else. So I've always really enjoyed that process, and I'm thoroughly loving putting that into fiction.
I think also you've always been an absolutely massive reader.
Oh yeah,
that was even before we had the bookshop, your free time was reading. That's what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I think if you've read a lot, you do pick up a lot subconsciously about the structure of books and story and how it works and sentence construction and
language.
So I think that's been a massive bonus for you.
Yeah.
And I guess with your study, you've also you think deeply about the subtext and the subplots and what this they're saying one thing but they mean something else. So I think that just comes naturally for you.
Reading, isn't it? It's a simple thing, isn't it? And it's an enjoyable one. But yes, it's been the top tip of a few authors that have come on the podcast recently, and I think it's an important one. Speaking of reading and running your bookshop, authors, a lot of the debut authors in particular, they've got questions about how to approach booksellers. Is it annoying when authors come up and say, "Oh, I've written a book, can I sign it?" Or is it something that you enjoy?
I think that's marvellous. If they know it's in the shop, if they've either looked it up online before, so they're confident, coming in because they know you stock it, please identify yourself to the bookseller. You'll get varying degrees of response, but you might want to let them know you're coming. Oh, I see you've got my book in stock. Shall I pop in and sign some? Because, for a bookseller, it's a great opportunity. We can take photos, we can stick it on the socials, and have a little celebration that author's been in. Because it's quite funny because a lot of readers still have a disconnect between the book that they love and the fact that a person actually wrote it and it came out of their head. So when they've actually signed it, I think that's quite a special thing. So, yeah, I would say, definitely identify yourself.
Yeah, I think it's different for different bookshops, and you will, maybe chains are different to indies perhaps, but I think most people will do. I mean, we've done this with our book. We've wandered into bookshops and had a look and seen that they've got it, and then we've gone up. It's nicest to check first because that saves a lot of embarrassment.
But because we're booksellers, I think then we'll pick the book up and we'll go up and we'll say, "This is us. I know you're really busy. Do you want us to sign it? It's totally fine if you don't." So then they've got a get out clause because
good idea
on the spot.
Yeah.
And it can be awkward,
and especially if it's on a Saturday and lunchtime and busy and
they're busy, or that bookseller's part-time and they don't know what the protocol is.
Or it might be that they can't, sometimes it's only the owner makes that decision, so it depends on who they are. So but if you're just polite and that's all you can ask, and also from a bookseller's point of view, sometimes a lot of our books are what they call seller returns. So if they don't sell, we send them back. If they're signed, sometimes you can't send them back. So it might be that they want you to sign some of them, but not all of them. So just be respectful of that as well. Do you want me to sign some? How many do you want me to sign, sort of thing, and give them that as well. And so and
give the bookshop a shout out on your socials too.
That's a good idea.
But certainly we don't mind people coming in and saying, "Look, you've got my book here. Can I sign it?"
That's great.
And we know that people don't know what authors look like, so you don't expect to be recognised. So it's nice when the author does come up and say, "This is me. This is me. Do you want me to sign them?" Sort of thing. Yeah.
That's good advice. Do you have any other tips for authors in booksellers, how to be a good author?
Yeah, I mean, it's very much a symbiotic relationship. You don't write them, we can't stock them. And also you need us to get that wider audience. So, get in touch. Just say, if you know that book is in stock at that bookshop, flick them an email. Some authors must write 1 billion postcards. We've had postcards saying, "Thank you for stocking my book." And as a bookseller, you just go, "Oh," and you've created that relationship with somebody, a real personal relationship.
I love that. I haven't heard that one before. I think that's really beautiful. Handwriting a nice postcard.
And I think don't be a dick. At the end of the day, bookselling is writing's a really hard job, and getting your book published is really impressive. But also, bookselling is really hard. So if the person doesn't have your book, don't be funny about it. Don't necessarily be the person who then takes all of their book and moves it to a different space in the bookshop, so it's right in the front, because that's quite annoying.
We don't know where it's gone for us.
Just be respectful, because they're part. They are part of the business, but you don't want to be rude to the person who's selling your book, and
Yes.
it does happen, And if they haven't got your book, just suck it up,
Or talk to your publisher and the publisher's rep and say, I think it'd do well in this bookshop.
Yeah.
Have you tried? Or
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because a lot of authors don't realise that not every bookshop is going to stock their book.
Yeah.
There's new releases coming out each month. Every Tuesday, the new ones hit. Like it's a constant thing. So you really get that small window, don't you, to really make a mark.
Do. You get about 3 months on the shelves, or well, probably it would start longer, but you get 3 months of promotion from your publisher or something like that, and then it's So I think you can help by just being friendly with the booksellers, being nice to them, because then they're more likely. If you're going to do an event, promote that event. Do everything you can to help promote it.
It's a bit of work, and you've got to, don't expect everyone else to do it for you. Some authors, when they're pretty big, they don't have to do anything. But we've done a lot of putting ourselves out there for our novels, and
but also we like visiting bookshops. We've enjoyed it
though, so I'm not complaining.
It's been fun and easy for us, but
don't expect it to just happen.
Yeah,
you've got to be part of the process.
Yeah, I think these days you have to put the effort in as well.
Yes.
And also just suck it up if it doesn't go well. We've had events that haven't gone so well, and it's just for us as the authors, but also for us as booksellers, and you can do everything you can to try and get an audience, and people may not just turn up. And if that happens, you just have to live with it.
Yeah. And it's a good story to tell on a podcast in future and a festival as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Big authors have all got that story where nobody turned up for their event.
Yeah.
So
resilience building, it's important as an author, I think.
Totally. Yeah.
So to finish, we always ask our guests to leave the listeners with one top tip. And you've already given us some great top tips. So you can repeat one that you've already given. I'm guessing Gareth is don't be a dick, but I'll hand it over to both of you.
Mine's always create relationships. Just be who you are, be genuine, and reach out on a human being level, not on a sort of I'm emailing a corporate bookshop, just try and create genuine human relationships, because that's going to work well for everybody.
I think when I do writing talks, I always start with this Venn diagram. So it's got 3 circles, and one is craft. So, you have to have the craft of your writing, because no one's generally not going to publish something that's not very good. You have to have persistence, because you are going to get rejections. And then you have to have luck. And there's that little sweet spot where they all intersect. And you can change some of those. You can't really do anything about luck, but you can make your craft better, and you can be persistent to increase your chances. But you still rely on that element of luck, and that's all there is to it. Yeah.
And maybe you can reduce that element of luck by doing your research in terms of, well, who is going to be the best place to pick up this work? What have they been publishing in the past? Is this hitting the market that they want as well? So doing your research really helps, I think, with that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, I guess writing to market is a thing. I guess we did with this, but it wasn't necessarily a hugely conscious decision. I think you've got to write what you enjoy writing, really. For me, writing has always been about writing what I want to write, and anything else is a bonus. So, yeah.
No, I agree. Write what you want to write. That's a lovely way to finish off. So you have to plug your bookshop as well, but when you go into bookstores, everybody, make sure you pick up a copy of Gareth and Louise's latest book in the Bookshop Detectives series, Tea and Cake and Death, which is a great title. So thank you so much for joining me. And do you want to tell us for our New Zealand listeners, I think we have a few, where your bookshop is?
So we're on the North Island. We are in Hawke's Bay, which is on the east coast, and we've got bookshops in Havelock North and one in Napier.
Amazing. Thank you both so much for joining us on the Book Deal podcast.
Thanks for having us.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Book Deal podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the pod so you can receive updates as soon as our new eps drop. And to keep up to date with what the pod is doing, you can also find us on Instagram.